For more than 40 years, a predator moved in the darkness, unseen yet feared. He wasn't just a thief, he was a terror, a shadow that crept into homes, shattered lives, and disappeared without a trace. He was known by many names. The Visalia ransacker, a man who burglarized over 100 homes. The East Area rapist, a masked figure who whispered threats to his victims, binding them in fear. And finally, the Golden State Killer, a man whose crimes escalated to something far worse. Between 1976 and 1986, his attacks became more violent. He studied his victims, learned their routines. He would break in, tie them up, and take his time. Sometimes, he called them before or after the attack. His voice, chilling and calm, was a reminder that he was still watching. But then, he turned to murder. 13 people lost their lives, and the trail of devastation stretched across California. Police had evidence, DNA from the crime scenes, but in a world before forensic genealogy, the Golden State Killer remained just that, a ghost. Then, in 2018, technology finally caught up with him. Investigators uploaded his DNA to a public genealogy database, tracing distant relatives and narrowing their search to one man. Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer now 72 years old, living an ordinary life in Citrus Heights, California. They followed him, watched him, waited for the perfect moment. Then one day, he discarded a used tissue. The DNA was tested. It was a perfect match. After more than 4 decades, the monster had a name. On April 24, 2018, officers surrounded his home. The man who had once been untouchable was finally in cuffs. His first words, "I have a roast in the oven." But this time, there was no escape. In 2020, he pleaded guilty, avoiding the death penalty, but sealing his fate. The sentence? Multiple life terms without parole. The Golden State Killer would never hurt another soul again. For the victims, their families, and the investigators who refused to let the case go cold, justice had finally been served. It took time, more than 40 years, but in the end, he was caught. And this time, there was nowhere left to hide.